How y'all doing? So this is a focus group. You're meant to talk to each other. You're meant to engage each other. You have one thing in common, which is you all voted for Trump. Some of you voted for him for different reasons. Some of you did not like Hillary Clinton. Some of you loved him. Some of you think that he has been much better than what you expected. Some of you think he's disappointed you. That's fine. Did you vote for Trump because of where he stood on the issues or because of his attributes and character traits? I'm just curious.
I voted on the issues.
How many of you voted on the issues? Okay, what were you looking for when you voted for Trump?
Change, I guess.
Did you get the change you were looking for?
Not really.
I did.
You did, clearly.
Jerusalem's the capital of Israel.
What was the change you were looking for when you voted for him?
Just everything to change. Healthcare, everything.
We didn't get health care.
Of course.
Yes. Not because of him, we didn't get health care, because of the Congress. We
He
didn't
wanted us to have health care.
So you blame Congress?
Absolutely.
Yes, for the health care I do.
How many of you think that if the election were held today, you would vote for him again? Okay, why not?
I'm not one of the cult members who thinks everything he does is wonderful.
Cult?
Cult.
Insults again.
Trump
There's
was
the
right.
insults coming
Can
again.
I say something? Trump is right. He could literally kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. You would still love him.
Hillary's already killed people.
Oh, Hillary's the
did
devil.
kill
I get
people.
it. She's the devil.
You voted for Trump.
I voted for Trump at a protest for Hillary, thinking he was maybe a populist, and boy, was I sold a bill of goods that's just not there.
Well, you think Hillary would have been doing better today at this point?
Hillary
You think
wouldn't
she would have had the
embarrass us in
economy
front
up
of the
where it's
world.
at today?
Hillary was a
You think
horrible
she'd have
candidate.
would she have had the black unemployment down to where it's at today?
What are you talking about?
What am I
As far as
talking
the
about?
stock market,
When Obama was president, black unemployment was up to 50-some%.
I know Obama was the black guy. We all hated him. I get that.
I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him. You got to remember one thing. The bottom line is you got to respect the office.
Hold on.
That's
Hold
what you
on.
got to respect.
Hold on. We were, what, 3 minutes into this conversation?
Yeah.
And this just exploded. Every time I raise the issue of Donald Trump, every time, this is what happens. So I have to ask you the question. Is it possible that he is contributing to this tonality?
The media.
Is it possible?
Trump can't let his accomplishments speak for themselves. He's far too thin-skinned, and his nasty tweets and his preening are the things that are making the news.
But you voted for him.
Absolutely.
And are you happy with that vote?
I am still happy with that vote. I just wish he would grow up.
I'm not sure the people who are speaking follow his tweets, because I follow every tweet every day, the minute he tweets them. And most of them are intelligent, enlightening tweets.
I think so.
And some of them are funny.
I mean, he goes off the rails
and
once in a while,
he's
but
brilliant.
I think the
He's a
press
brilliant
goes
man.
off the rails all the time.
It's his only
Absolutely
It's
brilliant.
his only
And the
communication with the
mainstream
public.
media has no intention of giving him a break. So I think he's the best president we've ever had.
Hold on. The best president we've ever had.
Best president we've ever
In
had.
1 year.
In 1 year.
So it's nearly a year since Donald Trump has set out to make America great again. And here in Pennsylvania, a state that is traditionally won by Democrats in presidential races, he won by the narrowest of margins. So we asked Republican pollster Frank Luntz to gather a focus group of Trump voters from Pennsylvania to tell us how he's faring after a year. If you look back at Trump's first year in office, what do you see?
I see so many missed opportunities. So many typical Democrats voted for him because they were fed up with decades of empty promises that didn't come true. I saw a chance to transcend traditional ideology and politics. I'll give a little, you give a little. The problem is, Trump voters don't want to compromise. Bernie Sanders voters don't want to compromise. Hillary Clinton voters don't want to compromise. Everyone wants someone else to compromise. Everybody wants them to do it. We've lost our respect for each other. We've lost this commonality that links us.
Is Donald Trump the symptom of this or the cause of this?
I can't tell. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if Trump caused this or he's a representative of it, but he's certainly doing nothing to tone it down.
In his year as president, Trump has certainly given his many critics ammunition to support the idea that he's blundering with foreign leaders, struggling with staffing, possibly under the influence of Russian forces and uninformed on basic facts about the federal government.
Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here, referring to African countries and Haiti?
But Trump remains popular with his base. The voters we met in Pennsylvania are representative of national polls. Today, over 80% of Trump voters say they'd vote for him again. And as we learned from Roger Stone, the legendary political strategist who helped get his longtime friend elected, it's Trump's intentional, strategic use of political division that keeps his base so happy. You describe yourself as somebody who believes in uplifting, uniting conservatism.
Well, politics has two sides. One is you do need a lifting, positive, uniting message to galvanize your base. But you also, and Nixon was the best at this, you need the us versus them, the class divisions, the elites versus the outsiders. If you can run against the guys who went to Harvard, what could be better than that?
And these really stupid people, they call themselves the elite. And these eggheads that you watch on television, and believe me, I'm much smarter than they are, okay, just so you understand. You know, they call them the elite. It's time to reject a media and political elite that's bled our country dry.
Tell me what the issues are that you think resonated with voters during the campaign and put Donald Trump in the White House.
Trade, immigration, and then non-interventionist in terms of foreign wars.
So it is populism.
Yes, and nationalism. No more foreign wars, economic populism. How about American jobs for a change? It's a pretty simple equation.
Throughout his life, Trump has been largely flexible and opportunistic with his political positions.
So I'm very liberal when it comes to health care. I believe in universal health care. I believe in whatever it takes to make people well and better.
Let Obamacare fail, and then everybody's going to have to come together and fix it.
I'm very pro-choice. Well, look, I mean, as you know, I'm pro-life.
But there are two issues on which he's always been consistent. And it just so happens they map perfectly with the concerns of his base.
We've been ripped as a country by virtually every country we do business with.
You shared Mr. Perot and Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Nader's belief with regard to NAFTA, right? You were an opponent of NAFTA.
I am.
We will stop the jobs from leaving your state.
I think that too many people are flowing into the country. We have to take care of our own first.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
Illegal immigration.
I don't like the things that are happening with the illegal immigrants. They're taking our jobs. They're bringing ISIS into the country. You've seen this.
They're bringing ISIS into the country. How many of you believe that illegal immigration is causing ISIS to come into America?
Only bringing in destructive elements. They're sneaking in. But there's no vetting there. How do we know who's coming in? It could be anybody or anything.
He must build the wall. It's essential. Immigration and the wall, that's the Trump platform. It doesn't change, essentially, from the announcement at Trump Tower till the time he's sworn in. It's exactly the same. And then you could see him road test it, refine it, change it around, try different approaches to it rhetorically until he found his applause line.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
The United States currently spends more than $13 billion a year on border security. The nearly 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border already has about 700 miles of fencing in place. But as Isobel Yeung found in Arizona, many voters on the U.S. border have long felt it's not enough, and they believe the first year of the Trump presidency has made them much safer.
So this is it.
This is the international boundary, a 4-strand barbed wire fence. Can I show you how easy it is to get into the United States?
Please.
I'm in Mexico.
Hola.
Hola. It's easy. I mean, anybody can crawl through or over the fence, even a 78-year-old cowboy.
Jim Chilton is a rancher who claims his land sees a constant flow of migrants and drugs coming from Mexico.
They're mainly, in this area, Sinaloa cartel drug packers.
How do you know?
Because I see on my images huge bundles of marijuana, and we have seen groups of 20 with AK-47s, and they're not packing candy bars for the poor.
So you think that the solution is to build a wall?
It is the solution. And I've been advocating this for 10 years or more. And I was really startled when President Trump said, we need a wall. I don't know, he's a New Yorker. And how he knew what we needed was a wall and securing the borders. I've been advocating that for 10 years. And so I've been most happy with Trump.
Back at the ranch, Jim and his wife Sue showed us video evidence of the drugs and people coming across their property.
This is a whole collection of carpet shoes. They are put over the, mostly the drug packers' shoe so that they don't leave tracks as they walk in to drop their loads.
Right, so this is so people don't leave marks on the ranch?
That's correct. See, look, if you look quickly, you can see the carpet shoes on them.
Oh yeah, I see some shoes.
The first ones, it was really obvious.
So these are secret cameras that you set up around your farm?
Yes, they are.
It's less a matter of people looking for a job. There's a greatly reduced flow of those. There is a very substantial flow of drugs.
Do you feel safe living here on this property?
I feel more safe since the election.
Why is that?
Well, because the Border Patrol is freer to do the job they took an oath to do. Prior to the election, they felt less free to do so.
We are just about to head out on a patrol with the Pinal County law enforcement, heading out on one of their daily rounds.
8?
Last 2, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's a lot of dope.
Not much.
No?
This is actually one of our smaller loads.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So did you catch the people with the drugs?
No, we didn't. They were able to get away before we could apprehend them, but they left their dope behind for us, so we were happy about that.
The challenge for law enforcement in border states is that cartels often combine drug smuggling with people smuggling, with migrants forced to carry drugs through the Arizona desert.
Just a couple of days ago, right up here on the mountain ridge was where they found 300 pounds or so of marijuana that had been smuggled in from the Mexican border. They've also got intel that a scout is based up here who works for the cartel, who's crossing people over and trying to keep tabs on where Border Patrol and where these guys are. There's a whole stash of products up here that haven't yet been used. There's a bunch of food cans and tins. Febreze. Looks like whoever's been stationed up here has been planning to return. And I can see why. I mean, this little cave here is a pretty great vantage point. You can see 360-degree view around this landscape.
It's concealed by the trees. It's in a really hard area to get to, and it gives them a vantage point out to the north and east of us, and as well as to the south. They can see for miles and miles away.
Do you think that a wall would help?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
You must have thought about it a little bit.
But I'm all for whatever the federal government wants to do to help us out. I'm all for it. By all means, do it, and let's see if it works. It doesn't hurt to try, right? We won't know unless we do.
It's a very diplomatic answer.
Thank you.
While the effectiveness of a physical wall has been widely questioned, its cost is estimated to be at least $18 billion. And after 1 year in office, all that exists of the wall so far are 8 prototypes south of San Diego. The Trump administration still says Mexico will pay for a border wall, despite a year's worth of evidence that it won't, including direct statements from current President Enrique Peña Nieto.
México no pagará ningún muro.
And former Mexican President Vicente Fox.
President Trump is playing around with everybody, throwing these smoke balls, and it will not work for him. He has now faced his first defeat.
We met up with President Fox at his ranch.
Profit sharing.
What were your initial thoughts when you heard President Trump announce his presidency and at the same time announce his plans to build this wall?
I was in Dubai that night watching this and I cried. I mean, I immediately thought this is dangerous. We will never pay for that fucking wall. So that's number one. Number two, he's not going to get the money from Congress.
Can you understand why those Arizona ranchers would be particularly upset and would want a wall built on their own property to prevent all these drug cartels that they see passing through their properties?
I don't understand the leader of the world building walls. That's stupid. I mean, what is going to provoke is an empty leadership space in the world. When the United States withdraws and encloses itself within its wall, China will flourish, Russia will flourish, Mexico will flourish, and there will be new leadership in the world.
While the wall itself has not yet been funded, there was a 26% decline in southwest border apprehensions last year, with Trump's tough stance deterring migrants from the south. ICE and police agencies are working closely on the deportation of undocumented immigrants, and arrests increased 25% last year. We met with Sheriff Mark Lamb to see how law enforcement is cooperating with federal authorities under Trump.
What's your plan to tackle immigration?
You know, our plan is to be aggressive, work with our partners. We have great federal partners between Border Patrol, Homeland Security Investigation, ICE. We're working together because not one of us can do it alone.
And do you think it's fair that inevitably that means that they will be deported straight back to Mexico or wherever it is they came from?
Yeah, I mean, they're here illegally. If somebody's committing a crime, I have a duty to hold them responsible or at least put them in front of a judge. It's much like as if you had cancer. At some point, I have to go in and I have to remove that. But to do it, I have to cut you. I have to hurt you to remove it ultimately so that you can survive. And that's where we're at in this country. We have to now make a determination. Are we going to remove this? Or are we going to continue to let it grow and take us?
On the Mexican side of the Tijuana border, we saw the aftermath of this policy. Valeria Ruiz is the coordinator of Casa del Migrante and gave us a tour.
So how many people do you have here at the shelter?
Every night we work around 130 or 150, but the number changes every night.
Have you noticed any difference in numbers since Donald Trump became president?
Since January, every night the number increased. And the other change is just what the people think. Like, they are afraid to cross the U.S. The Haitian people don't want to cross right now. They want to stay here in Mexico, just because for the political change in the U.S.
ICE officials are working more closely with police to apprehend anyone who comes into contact with law enforcement and make sure they're deported, even when no crime or only a misdemeanor has been committed.
How did you arrive here? How did you end up here?
Un día en la noche fui a dejar a mi novia a su casa. Había 4 patrullas detrás de mí. Me llevó arrestado a una cárcel donde pocas horas después yo salí porque no tenía cargo y cuando yo salí de la cárcel afuera estaba ICE esperándome.
How long had you been living in the US for?
15 años.
And you've never had any issues, any run-in with the authorities, any risk of deportation at all until just now?
Yo tengo entendido que uno cuando va a otro país es visitante y debe de portarse bien. Últimamente se siente algo muy diferente. En algunas personas había un odio guardado que ahora la política nueva que entró con el nuevo presidente, pienso que eso se revolvió y salió.
I have to say that I feel like, there's a lot of scary things about immigration, but I don't want to be the country that is not compassionate to people who want to come and have a better life for their families or that want to escape persecution. And I know there are people that take advantage of us, but I also know that there are people who come here and they work really hard doing crappy jobs, like working in fields, bussing tables as maids. They're working really hard to try to contribute. I don't want to be the country that doesn't recognize that.
Here's the problem with the immigration thing. Immigration is the one issue that determines the outcome and fate of every other issue in America, because once they become citizens, they vote.
So for you, it's not about justice, it's about politics.
Absolutely. Why do you think the Democrats want open borders? You know, first they pander to the black vote, then the Hispanic vote, then they decide, well, we'll just bring in enough people to wash out the Bible Belt or whatever you call it. Basically, they're trying to wash out our votes.
Change our demographics.
You just said change our demographics.
I'm just speaking facts.
Change our demographics. What do you mean?
I mean, replace all the conservatives with more liberal thinking.
That's not demographics.
Or demographics, just like I'm sorry, but they take the black vote for granted, they take the Hispanic vote for granted. So they're assuming that if they bring enough other illegal immigrants in, that eventually are able to vote, that they'll also be Democrat.
I'm a compassionate person.
It's
not my job to subsidize someone that's here illegally.
Try go to China or something illegal, see how long you'd last.
In a call with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, he also fired off a warning about Mexico's tough hombres.
Trump has been accused of veering into racism when he talks about immigration. At least so far, the courts have blunted many of his attempts to make lasting changes to immigration law. But ardent supporters like Ann Coulter give him credit for trying. So, 2015, you're on Bill Maher, and you tell the audience that Donald Trump is going to be president.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
I would do anything for
Though
Trump.
if you ran,
Christie.
if you ran Bernie Sanders, it would be much tougher.
Bernie Sanders?
It would be much tougher to beat him than
You think would be a better candidate than Hillary?
Yeah.
Wow.
You were met with gales of laughter. What was it then that made you think that this man would be president?
It was always the issues. Anyone who wasn't as boorish as Donald Trump would never have been as tacky as to take the sides of the issues he took.
On the one issue that you care most about, which is immigration, you famously said Donald Trump could perform abortions in the White House,
yes,
provided he built a wall.
I've been to America, and I knew that for one thing, the immigration issue is huge. I mean, I've never seen an issue where the public is on one side and all of the politicians are on the other side. Of all people, this crazy reality TV star, I thought they were going to be getting truckloads of depends sent into Congress. Well, if you were a member of Congress, wouldn't you be sitting back thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea where the American people stand on these issues.
We won the evangelicals. We won with Yeung. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
I hear you talking in this very populist language. Democrats trying to say you like Bernie Sanders in some way.
Well, Trump and Sanders were the only ones who opposed the Iraq War, the only ones who didn't want to be remaking other countries and cared more about this country. They were the only ones, and particularly Trump, on the trade issues who cared about keeping manufacturing jobs here.
Economics was the top factor that decided the outcome of the 2016 election. And Trump wasn't the only underdog whose populist rhetoric inspired voters. We spoke to Senator Sanders about how working-class voters affected the election. What were those issues that drove people to Donald Trump?
If you are the average worker in America today, there is a likelihood that you are working longer hours for lower wages despite a huge increase of productivity. You are worried to death about the future of your kid who either cannot afford to go to college or maybe leaves school deeply in debt, can't find a house that he or she can afford. If you're at the lower end of the economic ladder, you're worried about putting food on the table. And for many, many years, the Democratic establishment essentially ignored that reality. In recent times, where people were saying the economy under Obama has done better, and that's true, it has done better. Unemployment went down, deficit went down. But what was forgotten by the establishment wing of the Democratic Party is, as we speak today, there's a lot of people in a whole lot of pain in this country. And Trump, being the phony that he is, being the liar that he is, but being not a dummy, smart guy, he understood that. He understood that reality. Trump said, I'm going to start creating jobs here in the United States rather than in China. That was pretty good. So he went to Indiana and he said, look, The establishment has failed you. I understand that. I am going to stand with you. I am going to take on the establishment. Good rhetoric, really good rhetoric. And I can understand how people responded to it.
What he's referring to is a now famous moment in February 2016, when Carrier, an air conditioning company, announced it would be laying off 1,400 workers from its plant in Indianapolis.
The best way to stay competitive is to move production from our facility in Indianapolis to Monterrey, Mexico.
As president-elect, Trump called Greg Hayes, the CEO of Carrier's parent company, United Technologies.
So I said, Greg, you got to help us out here. We got to sit down. We got to do something. And now they're keeping, actually, the number is over 1,100 people, which is so great,
We traveled to Indianapolis to see if Trump has made good on his rhetoric about bringing manufacturing jobs back to Middle America. Indiana was once a manufacturing hub, but the last 3 decades have seen its decline. Attention during the election wasn't enough to save Carrier from that reality.
The Carrier facility will start layoffs in August. There will be 200 and something that will be laid off at that time. These are trying times for us, some of us being older, trying to go back out in the job market again, and a lot of us thought that the future was secure, and come to find out that it is not. Good luck to all of you, and that's about it.
Thank you, Robert.
As it turned out, President Trump saved far fewer jobs than he claimed.
At first, when Trump came, we heard it was going to be 1,100. So we was like, okay, we're going to lose 300 jobs. It sucks, but hey, 1,100. And then we find out, it was really 730, and so then all those folks in the plant, like you got to be in their shoes that day. They're excited, you're hearing Trump saving jobs, and then you find out the next day, oh, well, you don't make that 730 cut, so sorry.
TJ was actually in the original news piece that inspired Trump to get involved with Carrier in the first place. He now sees the issue differently.
Do you grimace a little bit when you see things in the media say Carrier's jobs were saved, and you know that that's not entirely true?
I do kind of grimace when I hear Trump saved Carrier. He didn't save all of them.
Our jobs didn't get saved. I had 18 years of perfect attendance. I thought I would retire from there. I worry about money for the rent and food, gas.
We're the ones that made all that profit for that company. I don't need a yacht. I need to keep a roof over my head. I like to go out and eat every once in a while. I like to buy a new pair of jeans every once in a while. Simple. I'm pretty simple.
The people who voted for Trump are pissed off right now.
Is that true within Carrier?
Oh yeah, ain't nobody yelling Trump no more. Nobody, all that cheering and everybody, all that's out the window. They're right back to how they was feeling.
And Carrier employees continue to feel the effects. 215 layoffs occurred just last week. Workers across Indiana overwhelmingly voted for President Trump. During the campaign, Trump himself tweeted about saving jobs for other Indiana manufacturers, like Rexnord Industries, down the road from Carrier. With Rexnord set to move operations to Mexico, Trump voters like John Feltner had hoped the new administration could save their jobs.
What Trump did there at Carrier was unprecedented. It's never been done before. I was floored. The mood inside Rexnord is, all right, maybe he will come and save our job. Maybe Rexnord's not going to go anywhere. I saw hope come up. And
how many people did you know at work that supported Trump?
A bunch.
That's what got Trump in there. He came here for the campaign. He made a big publicity stunt about it. Big hero gonna come in and rescue Carrier. Really played that up. There'll be no more companies leaving the country. American jobs aren't gonna leave. Make America great again. But there's he feels the same way.
It got so political because everybody was all wrapped up in the politics of it. Well, during all those politics and all this stuff ramping up, guess what? I was losing my damn job. But just because I voted for Trump, then you're an idiot. You're uneducated. I'm uneducated because I didn't vote for the person that you supported? Come on now. I just voted on what I thought was important to me, and that's my job. I don't care what bathroom you use. I can give shit less. I just want my job, my family.
This year, Rexnord closed its Indiana operations. While the Dow Jones has reached record highs under Trump, that isn't particularly meaningful to most Americans, who have less and less investment in the stock market. In 2007, almost 2/3 of Americans said they had money in the stock market. Last year, only a little over half said the same. What matters to the middle class is wages. Although unemployment continued to fall in 2017, real wage growth was only 0.4%, lagging behind economists' expectations. Despite his campaigning to blue-collar workers, Trump's only major legislative win so far has been on the tax bill, which particularly benefits the rich.
Okay, let's do debate on policy. How many of you support the tax legislation? So there's only one of you.
I'm a blue-collar worker. This is for, and let me just say this before I get people jump down my throat.
Oh no, they'll do it anyway.
Yeah. This is what I read is for the donor class. This is for rich people, for corporations. How come the tax breaks for regular people, middle class, expire in a few years, but not the corporate tax rate?
Do you get a job from a poor person? You don't. So it's businessmen and big business and corporations that provide jobs. That's where the jobs come from.
And the fact of the matter is that our tax rate is not competitive with other countries, which is why most of our companies are leaving and why we don't make anything in America. But when you make this country competitive again and take away regulation, we might actually bring back our factories and our jobs. If we start bringing back our manufacturing base, look out, we're going to be America again. I don't know what news you're reading, but it's simple economics.
Trump's economic platform may be simple in its appeal, but to understand the tenets of Trumponomics, we spoke with the economist David Rennie, who interviewed the president on the subject in May 2017.
What is Trumponomics? It's a strange mixture of a kind of big business wish list, so tax cuts, deregulation, but then where it differs from, stuff Ronald Reagan used to talk about, is there is a real dose of economic nationalism. And he's also very focused on a particular kind of job, and that is a reflection of how he won. He won in places which miss heavy industry. And he's very backwards looking about how do you bring those jobs back. You can't go back to the end of the Second World War where Europe was in rubble, Asia wasn't making stuff that anyone wanted to buy, and America controlled 50% of global manufacturing. Those jobs, they're not coming back. I mean, some of those jobs don't exist anywhere. We're building factories with robots and automation. Training workers back in America to compete for the jobs that are here. That should be the focus. That's kind of what's tragic for us, is you have this businessman president who has this really deep understanding of how a lot of people felt left out and forgotten by globalization, and how he was going to heed them and respect them. But instead, it feels very nostalgic, and it feels very focused on pleasing his base for his own selfish political reasons.
While Trump's base may still be pleased with him, he's often confounded Republicans in Congress.
I'm looking for something that President Trump supports. As soon as we figure out what he is for, then I would be convinced that we were not just spinning our wheels.
Despite controlling both houses, Trump has signed fewer bills into law in his first year than any president in modern history. After Trump spent much of the year attacking fellow Republicans, GOP initiatives like the pledge to repeal Obamacare have failed dramatically.
Senator John McCain, just days removed from his cancer diagnosis, stunning the chamber, turning the thumbs down on the repeal bill.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was initially intrigued by the possibilities of working with a political outsider. What were your expectations, and what have you seen in the past year?
Well, look, when Donald Trump ran, he basically ran as a populist, opposing the Democratic and Republican establishments. And I said, look, if you continue to run as a populist against both the Democratic and Republican administrations, we might be able to do some things together. But if you continue to embrace the hard right, we're not going to be able to work very well together. And that is what Trump has done. He has forsaken the middle class. The forgotten man that he campaigned to be for, he has forgotten. And instead, he's embraced the hard right wing of the Republican Party, the very wealthy, the Koch brothers, the people who believe government should be shrunk at all costs. And it has led to his lack of popularity in America. The reason he's at 40 or below 40% is people are beginning to catch on. Even his core supporters are beginning to think he favors the wealthy over the average working person. But some, not most, some of the things he campaigned on would lead to an opening with Democrats if he would have pursued them. He hasn't.
One deal-making opportunity with Democrats would appear to be a resolution of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, the Obama administration policy that allowed roughly 800,000 child migrants, known as Dreamers, to stay in the United States. But on this and many other issues, Trump finds himself cornered by the extremity of his own language and promises.
Breitbart's headline today read, Trump caves on DACA, wants quick amnesty for 800,000 illegal aliens. Ann Coulter tweeted, put a fork in Trump, he's dead. At this point, who doesn't want Trump impeached?
What did he tell you on Dreamers?
He said, let's do Dreamers. I feel for these kids. He said, I want the wall. But we don't have to do the wall as part of Dreamers. We can do it later. Let's do some border security. And the next day just did a total reversal. Breitbart News said, amnesty Trump, said he should be impeached, and he got afraid and backed off. And the fact that he gave us, his word the night before, Leader Pelosi and I, didn't matter. I think it was a lesson to him that the hard right wouldn't give him any ground on immigration, and that's why he's been so extreme on it.
We'll do DACA, and we can certainly start comprehensive immigration reform the following afternoon. When this group comes back, hopefully with an agreement, I'm signing it.
As of Trump's one-year anniversary, there's no compromise on DACA, and there are few major legislative accomplishments teed up for 2018. So if Trump hasn't gotten much done, why do his most devoted supporters insist that he has? Perhaps because Trump's single greatest accomplishment in his first year has been a relentless attack on the facts.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
Iraqis came here to this country, were radicalized, and they were the masterminds behind the Bowling Green massacre.
We are the highest taxed corporate tax in the developed economy.
And yet the murder rate in our country is the highest it's been in 47 years, right? You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. They're having problems like they never thought possible.
What about Donald Trump's reputation and image on the world stage as the leader of the free world?
Well, Netanyahu loves him. He stands up to foreign leaders. He doesn't bow down to them or
He's in a Twitter war with the Prime Minister of Britain. He's insulting the Chancellor of Germany. Our single greatest ally in the UN is Australia, and he starts his administration in a brawl with him. And you think this is good?
I do think that other countries feel like he is going to do what he says, as opposed to, when the other administration, he apologized for us all the time. I don't want my president apologizing overseas for us.
How about the fact that we just pretty much destroyed ISIS and the caliphate? How about the fact that I think we won, the Syrian thing is over now?
I'm sorry, what, are we on planet Earth, or what planet are you on that we won the Syrian thing? What are you talking about?
Pretty much over.
The Syrian thing is over? On what world? On Fox News? I mean, do you guys watch anything but Fox News?
I'm going to point to each one of you, and you're going to tell me your number one source of news.
Fox.
Fox News.
OAN. Fox News.
Fox News.
New York Times.
Fox.
BBC.
Fox.
I think that when the media doesn't report what's really happening, they are manipulating the electorate, and then the electorate is not able to vote in their best interests.
I truly feel if Donald J. Trump cured cancer today, it still wouldn't be good enough.
If Obama would have said what Trump said, they would have looked the other way. They wouldn't have said anything.
Why do you keep going back to Obama?
Because
he's not the president.
He's got a free pass. Because if Trump did half the stuff that Obama did, he'd be in the electric chair.
He's right.
If we only listened to CNN and MSNBC, Hillary Clinton would be president right now. So I want him to fight. I want him to fight hard. I want him to give us a voice. I love that man. I do.
I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony.
A ruthless battle has been waged over which side is spreading fake news. Distrust of media sources may be the one thing that left and right agreed on this year. President Trump expertly manipulated the media landscape by calling traditional news sources fake news, while legitimizing alt-right media as credible sources.
And now, who gets to talk to the president? Who gets to talk to the Supreme Court justices? Matt Drudge, Alex Jones.
While trust in the mainstream media plummeted, patently false fake news stories became commonplace across the internet.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
The result is an electorate which is drifting further and further in opposite directions, and a political system that appears to be bursting at its seams. What is the shape of the Republican Party right now? There seems to be an internecine war going on here.
I do focus groups all across the country. And I'd say there is at least a 50-50 chance that Republicans lose control of the House and maybe the Senate. I think that they're disconnected from voters in the center. And you have Donald Trump attacking Congress just about every week. And every time he attacks the Republicans, his base hears him. So how many of you are mad at the Republicans right now? Who here is mad at the Republicans in Congress? So almost all of you. Who?
Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan,
John
McCain, all of the ones that want things to stay as they are.
The man is literally, as we record this, the man is literally dying.
I understand. I feel bad for him, but it doesn't have anything to do with his politics.
Against a politician that you
I wish him well.
ill on, that's an improvement.
It's not a personal thing.
My biggest surprise in the last year is that many, many Trump voters are as mad with the GOP as they are with the Democrats. They get angry, not at him, but at congressional Republicans. It's Trump versus the world. And that had an impact in Alabama. It had an impact in Virginia. It had an impact in local elections across the country where Democrats won in places they've never won before. If Donald Trump doesn't stop attacking Republicans, he will give America a Democratic Congress, and he has no idea what he will face. Can you imagine the investigations if Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House? Can you imagine the subpoenas if Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Senate?
Elections matter. And the elections in New Jersey and Virginia and even Alabama were in part referenda on Trump.
Do you think this first year has been a failure?
Yes. Donald Trump is going to have more trouble in his presidency in 2018 than in 2017.
Trump's nomination is the hostile takeover of the Republican Party. Now he has to do what every Republican president since Lincoln has done, remake the party in your own image. He has the power to do that.
I'm Donald Trump and I stand before you. What do you tell me?
You won. Stop fighting everybody.
He's being attacked and he's fighting back. He's defending himself.
Let's remember that the focus of the last year has been on Russia has invaded, the elections, was colluded with Trump. Do we honestly think he's capable of doing that? No.
You're getting
You're
getting lost in what I just said.
It's ridiculous.
And if that's
You're the president. You don't need to continue to ram somebody into the ground. Kind of like you're running your points into the ground. Every time if somebody speaks in here, you made your point. Stop shaking your head every time somebody in the back of this room says something. Enough. No, him.
It sucks out there, and everyone knows it. We've all become so dismissive and so angry towards things that we don't agree with, that we don't listen anymore, we don't care anymore. We need to acknowledge that we are poisoning the political system in a way that may never clean itself out. There is no antidote to where we are as a country, and that is what frightens me the most. Whenever someone in this room says something negative about Trump, several of you jump down their throat.
I would like to see him be more of a leader, bringing people.
I have to disagree with you there because at least now throughout the world we're being respected. Before everybody was putting the bill on the U.S. of A.
He's not unifying. He's not unifying.
Well, I mean, just like
okay, so hold it, hold it,
where he pushed himself to the front.
Hold it.
He's in the front.
For the 8th time. I've never had a focus group that went like this. This is the first time ever. This did not happen before November of 2016. Is this the future of these conversations?
Probably.
Why?
Just look at what happens. I mean, somebody says something and the whole thing blows up.